Hello again, colleagues. We'll start here shortly. Jeffrey, good to have you here with us. You should be able to now talk. We can have your mic on as well as try to share your presentation as well if you wanted to do a quick test run as well.
Right. Good morning from Nairobi.
Excellent. We can hear you very well. Did you want to try
Yes,
screen
yes.
sharing or you were okay?
Let me
Here, I'll stop sharing from my side.
share the screen. Just a minute. Does that look from your side?
Yes, we just needed full screen, but yep, perfect. Very good. Thank you.
It's okay. Yeah? It's on full screen actually.
Yep, it's all good. We can see it very well and we can hear you very clearly. So thank you very much.
Okay. Stop.
Good morning, good afternoon again, colleagues. We'll start here in a couple of minutes. I would like to see if our colleagues from Fiji, if Shaista, if you're in the room already, if you can identify yourself so we can make you a presenter. All right, again, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for some of you. Welcome to the second webinar of our course on using administrative data for statistical production. My name is Sokol Vako, one of the lecturers here at the Statistical Institute for Asia and the Pacific. My pleasure to welcome you to this second webinar. We'll slowly make our way through the program for today as more colleagues join us. Let me first start with a couple of housekeeping items and reminders. As usual, we are recording the webinars, and this will be made available to you tomorrow through the CEAP LMS, so the website that you have been using to get access to all the course content and to participate in the various discussion forums. Your mics and cameras have been turned off. This will help us to have a good listening and viewing experience for everybody during this webinar. I would like to encourage you to post any questions that you may have through the chat. As usual, we'll try to pick those up as best we can towards the end of the webinar. For those of you who would like to follow through the caption feature, that is available to you, and you can follow along by getting closed captioning available to this webinar. The plan for today is similar to what we had last week. I'll start with a quick recap of modules 3 and 4. Then we are very excited to have two colleagues from different parts of the world joining us today to share their insights and experience with using administrative data in the statistical production process. We'll hear first from Ms. B from the Fiji Bureau of Statistics, and then Mr. Kariuki from the Kenya Bureau of Statistics will make a presentation after that. I'll introduce both of them before they start their presentations. And last but not least, we'll have questions and answers towards the end of the presentation. Again, you do not need to wait till the end, but please pay attention to the presentations, and any questions and comments that you would like to raise for our two excellent presenters, please do type those through the chat. Just a quick reminder of where we are. We are now in the middle part of the course and modules 3 and 4. Module 3 covered the quality aspect of administrative data, and module 4 focused on metadata as well as the feedback loop. So I hope everybody has had a chance now to read the modules that are available through the course webpage. If not, please make sure to do so as soon as possible. We have two more modules left, modules 5 and 6, and those will be available on Monday of next week. We'll send you a reminder so that you are aware of those and can continue reading the content of the course. And after that, we'll have the exam and wrapping up of the course. But for the time being, please do focus on reading the various modules that we have. I very much appreciate all the engagement that we have had through the discussion forum of the course, and very much appreciate not only your questions, but also the responses and providing your national perspectives in all of this. So it's quite excellent in that sense. I know that some of you may be having some audio issues and whatnot. Apologies from that, but I think usually what works best is to rejoin the webinar. Very good. Let me take a couple of minutes just as a quick summary of modules 3 and 4 before we start with the presentations that we have for today. Module 3 focused on the quality aspect of administrative data. And as we know, quality is a critical component of the work that we do in our statistics offices. It's important for any of the outputs that we produce, but it is very critical for administrative data because, as we know, administrative data is data that is collected not for statistical purposes initially, right? It's a data source that we rely on because it is available. It usually comes with these benefits of low cost and often good coverage, but we have to be mindful of the quality aspect. In the quality space, there is the guidelines, the quality assurance framework that has been put together by the United Nations, as well as other domain-specific quality assurance frameworks, whether it's on the economic statistics, on a finance statistics that IMF has put together, or more regional type of quality assurance frameworks that have been put together by regional entities. But all these frameworks have common themes and common advice that is provided to countries. And the idea is actually that you take those global frameworks and adopt them to your national circumstances. So many countries actually develop national quality assurance frameworks that speak to the circumstances that they have. Now, at the global level, we think about 9 dimensions of quality, usually for data and statistics from traditional sources, which include relevance, accuracy and reliability, timeliness and punctuality, accessibility and clarity, as well as coherence and comparability. Now, keep in mind that oftentimes improving one dimension of quality can come at the expense of other dimensions of quality. So it is often the case that the more accurate we are with the information that we're producing, the more likely we are to be not as on time or punctual with the data that we're producing. So there are trade-offs that happen, and this is true for administrative data as well. For administrative data, we also have to keep in mind that we run around issues of completeness, because it might be the case that a particular administrative data source might not have the coverage that we need for the production of the statistics that we required. Similarly, we need to think about definitions and classifications and similar items when we use administrative data for the compilation of official statistics to make sure that the way that the data is collected speaks well to the definitions and the classifications that we need for the compilation of that indicator or aggregate that we have in mind. And this was very well covered again in Module 3. If you have any questions or comments on this topic, please do share those as well. You also hopefully have read Module 4, and Module 4 touches another important component of administrative data, which is around metadata. And I think national statistical systems have become better equipped to produce metadata that speaks to the needs that the users have. Metadata is critical for indicators as well as aggregates and other information that is produced from administrative sources, because it provides the relevant context for users to properly utilize the information that you are producing. Structural metadata is sort of the top of the pyramid as far as metadata is concerned. It's the information that we are very much used to, talking about what data is being provided. We talk about the units being used, the time period, the geographic scope, and so on and so forth. So this type of structural metadata is usually readily available and comes with the information, the indicator that's being provided. But we need to take this a step further, obviously, and we need to provide conceptual metadata as well as detailed reference metadata, because this will be relevant, especially to those users who are more technical and who are more into the details of the information that's being provided. And especially with SDGs and the work that has gone at the country level for this, a lot of effort has been put to produce this information that speaks to those needs. So metadata is critical, again, because it helps your users interpret and compare statistics. For the sake of time, I will not spend a lot of time here on the feedback loop, but this was another important topic that you covered, and hopefully you appreciate now the need for continuous engagement in the use of administrative data for the production of official statistics. I know some of you joined us in our recent course on user engagement, and this was very much linked to this particular particular topic. Let me stop sharing here my screen. And again, thank you for indulging us in this very quick summary of modules 3 and 4. Let me now introduce the first of our two presenters. It is my great pleasure to bring to the floor here Ms. Shaista B, who works as a senior statistician based at the methodology unit at the Fiji Bureau of Statistics. Her work focuses on aligning national statistical practices with international standards and frameworks. It involves developing and refining methodologies alongside research to strengthen how data is produced and disseminated. A core part of the work that she does there is to support the national and global commitments on crime and gender statistics. She'll share with us how administrative data is being used in the production of crime statistics in Fiji. So, Shaista, the floor over to you. I hope you can share the screen and the presentation from your end, and we will carry on with your presentation. If you're having trouble sharing your screen, please let us know and we'll put your presentation up from our end. All right, I see that your mic is on, so unfortunately we cannot hear you just yet.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sokol. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and Bula Vinaka to you all. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today at this platform. It is an honor to be here sharing our national experiences. As mentioned by Mr. Sokol, I will be sharing how Fiji is working to strengthen crime statistics and community safety through our emerging crime data partnership and the use of harmonized standards such as International Classification of Crime for statistical purposes. Crime statistics are essential for policy making, safety planning, and strengthening the justice system. In Fiji, there is a strong national commitment to improve public safety, particularly for women and children, and to enhance accountability across institutions. Just a bit background of the project that we are currently doing. In January 2025, Fiji joined the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, UNDESA Data for Seeds initiative, where we prioritize 3 indicators on strengthening crime statistics, improving health data, and upgrading IT infrastructure. As part of this work, we consulted widely with national stakeholders across the crime and justice sector. These discussions highlighted several issues, such as limited harmonization and standardization between agencies, incomplete data flows, and inconsistent offense classification. To address these challenges, Fiji is taking a structured approach to implementing the International Classification of Crime for statistical purposes, ICCS. Full implementation would take years and require major system changes, so we are commencing by identifying priority indicators that reflect our most pressing national needs. And these are serious assault with a focus on gender-based violence, intentional homicide, applying a gender perspective including femicide, and also offenses involved controlled psychoactive substances, which is drug-related offenses. Starting with these categories allows us to build capacity, achieve early results, and gradually move towards full ICCS implementation. At present, the project is in its initial phases, confirming priorities, engaging stakeholders, and developing a coordinated work plan. In terms of identifying the needs for strengthening crime statistics, the need to improve crime statistics arises from a combination of practical experience and key national priorities. For instance, National Development Plan, which requires comprehensive data to report on overall crime and support national priorities. Then we have the Voluntary National Review. The VNR requires complete data set, and while we were working on the last VNR, which was in 2023, we were unable to report progress towards crime-related indicators because of incompleteness of information. Then Fiji also conducted the pilot of statistical framework on measuring gender-related killing of women and girls, which is femicide, in collaboration with UNODC and UN Women. And through this study, the need was seen to strengthen the consistency and completeness of homicide-related data across agencies to support gender-responsive analysis and policy intervention. On the UNCTS, which is United Nations Survey on Crime Trends and Operations of Criminal Justice Systems, Fiji participates in this survey, and during the submissions, we faced difficulties in reporting on majority of the crime indicators due to the differences between national classification and international framework. And finally, ongoing consultations and collaborations with ministries, law enforcement, and stakeholders reinforced how fragmented data systems and lack of harmonization impose challenges in data sharing and decision making. Together, these national commitments, reporting obligations, and practical challenges clearly highlighted the urgent need for a more harmonized, consistent, and complete crime data system for Fiji. Next is on the data gaps. During our data assessment, which was initial part of the project, we followed the following gaps were identified. One is on crime data. Crime data spread across multiple agencies, including police, the prosecutions, corrections, judiciary, health, and civil society organizations. Each institution uses different definitions, classifications, and recording methods, making it difficult to compare or integrate data. For instance, CSOs provide information on femicide, which is gender-related killing of women and girls according to international standards. However, justice systems do not specifically report on femicide because it is not part of the legal framework or the Crimes Act in Fiji. Also, important areas such as gender-based violence, child protection, and vulnerable groups are inconsistently captured. There is a limited data on gender-based violence because this is mostly underreported. However, the CSOs have more data on this, according to their research. Moreover, administrative datasets are not linked, so it is a challenge to follow a case across the justice chain from reporting to prosecution to outcome. For example, the police uses different method to identify a case, the prosecution uses different, and likewise for the rest of the justice sector. And finally, gaps in key disaggregations such as sex, age, location, victim, perpetrator relationship prior to records of violence and hate, which limit the ability to produce essential indicators for policy development and gender responsive analysis. These gaps are expected because these institutions work according to their mandates, and data is collected for own use and not for statistical purposes. Moving on to the key challenges that we faced throughout the process. These are some of the identified challenges. For instance, legal confidentiality and data sharing barriers. Data sensitivity and differing institutional mandates slow down collaboration. Then we have resource and system limitations, need for the upgraded administrative systems, data governance framework. We also feel capacity constraints, which is limited technical expertise in coding, classification, and metadata management, along with the knowledge gaps between statisticians and legal or operational staffs. Then, lastly, on sustaining the multi-agency coordination, agencies have their own priorities and may not always be available, and also maintaining engagement and consistent practices across all justice institutions over time is a huge challenge. Moreover, on addressing gaps and challenges, as highlighted earlier, the gaps and challenges we face are anticipated as agencies currently record information primarily for their own operational needs, rather than for statistical purposes. To address this issue, the Data for Now initiative is strengthening coordination and harmonization standards across agencies through fostering partnership. Under this, we have established two key coordination structures: a steering committee made up of heads of organizations to provide a strategic direction and high-level commitment. And then we have a technical working group consisting of technical officers and subject matter experts to address practical issues such as differing definitions, reporting methods, data structure, and to lead work towards implementation of the ICCS. Furthermore, to ensure consistent and comparable crime statistics, which meets global reporting requirements as well as supports national priorities. And to sustain multi-agency coordination, we continue to engage leaders through awareness meetings that highlight the importance, objectives, and long-term benefits of the project. We also keep them updated throughout the process by sharing meeting briefs and regular progress update on the technical working group. In terms of addressing capacity constraints, members of the technical working group have participated at both regional and national workshops on ICCS implementation, supported by experts from UNODC, along with a consultant with a legal background to advise on classification alignment. We also aim to hold more targeted trainings as the phases of implementation unfolds. Further to this, here I just wanted to add a slide on ICCS, which is our main tool in terms of harmonizing crime data. The International Classification for Crime for Statistical Purposes is the global standard for classifying crime data for statistical use. Unlike legal classification, ICCS is based on the nature of act and the intent, which allows alignment across different legal systems. For instance, gender-based violence is recorded as domestic violence in Fiji. And in other countries, there might be different terms such as intimate partner violence or so ever. But for ICCS, it all comes under assault so that to enable comparison and international reporting. In the context of harmonization, ICCS plays a central role. It provides the common framework that allows data from police, prosecution, courts, and corrections to be aligned. Further to this, strengthening crime statistics is not something that FBOS can do alone, as it is a national implementation and requires strong partnership across the justice sector and with our international counterparts. At the global level, we are supported by the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, UNODC, and UNODC Co-State Center of Excellence, who provide technical guidance, methodological support, and international standards, especially around ICCS implementation. At the national level, our core partners include the Fiji Police Force, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, the Judicial Department, the Fiji Correction Service, and of course, Ministry of Health, women machineries, civil society organizations, as and when the need arises. This collaboration would ensure that we are not working in silos, but moving together towards more reliable crime statistics, keeping everyone informed and in the picture. More on the planned phases. This is a tentative work plan that we have developed so far. We have reached phase 3, where we have identified gaps, priorities, and national stakeholders, elements that I highlighted earlier in the slides. In terms of coordination and staffing, UNDESA, FBOS, and UNODC are jointly coordinating and leading this initiative. The technical working group includes representatives from our core national stakeholders, which is police, prosecution, court, and judicial. Consultants are also engaged to provide technical and legal expertise. We are currently conducting the crime data assessment, which involves meeting with stakeholders and analyzing existing data production process, flow of information across agency, frequency and timeliness of updates, and gaps in recording, classification, and reporting. The plan for implementation includes mapping national offense codes and justice system processes to ICCS categories, piloting the application of ICCS for selected crimes or crime types, which is serious assault, intentional homicide, and drug-related offenses, and then delivering training sessions, calculating selected indicators, and reviewing the pilot results. Under the roadmap development following the pilot, we will develop a full implementation roadmap incorporating lessons learned and practical feedback. We will then draft and validate the ICCS implementation roadmap, including a phased approach and resource requirements through consultations with national stakeholders. So these are the expected results. At the shorter term, we are anticipating to have a harmonized and consistent crime classification across all justice chain. On the medium term, to produce preliminary ICCS aligned indicators. And on the longer term, we are working towards full implementation of the ICCS in Fiji. To sum up, this diagram shows how our approach in terms of in simple terms. We start with multiple administrative data sources, gathering the data from police, courts, prosecutions, and corrections, each with different stages. Through harmonization using ICCS and standard definitions, we map and align these datasets. The result is an integrated dataset that produces coherent crime statistics, which can then support SDG reporting, national development plan monitoring, and policy decisions. And that's basically my presentation, open to the questions. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Shaista, for that presentation, which provided a great overview of the various steps that you are undertaking in Fiji to align all the various data sources, bringing all the partners together, and having a clear map of where you want to end up. Colleagues, I would like to encourage you again, post your questions through the chat, and we have some already, Shaista, but I'll suggest that we carry on with the second presentation, and then we'll come back and go through the questions for both you and Jeffrey as well. So let me now introduce our second presenter, Mr. Jeffrey Kariuki, who is a statistician in the Sampling Methods and Standards Division at the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. There, he specializes in statistical methodology and quality. His work focuses on strengthening methodologies and advancing the quality of data and data systems across the Kenya National Statistical System and beyond. For the last 8 years, he has supported the production of quality statistics for evidence-based policy and planning in Kenya. So let me pass the floor over to Jeffrey for his presentation, and then, as I mentioned, we'll come back and have questions for both our presenters. Jeffrey, the floor over to you.
Thank you, Sakol, and thank you for having me. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, colleagues. My name is Jeffrey Kariuki from KNBS, and I think allow me to switch the camera off so that I can make my presentation. So I'll be presenting on how we are advancing the quality and the use of administrative data in Kenya. And a bit of overview on my presentation is we'll do a background of about KNBS, why we are using administrative data, quality assurance in Kenya, and the code of practice that we are currently using, the current status of administrative data, and the strategies that we're employing on the use of administrative data. Of course, we have the challenges and the priority areas that we are focused on in terms of the use of administrative data. So a bit of a background on the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. This is the National Statistics Office in Kenya, and it's established under the Statistics Act, Cap 112, to produce, disseminate official statistics and also coordinate the national statistical system. But apart from that key function, we have the coordination of the national statistical system. But the context in Kenya is a bit different from other countries because our system of government is evolved. So we have two levels of government. So we have the national government and the 47 devolved county units. So in terms of administrative data, here we need to focus on giving data for the national government and giving data to the county government. Specifically, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics is tasked with the function of providing data at national level for national planning and policy, but also we support counties because they produce what we call county integrated development plans that require indicators mostly from administrative data. So our working is a bit different from other countries. So we have to work to support the two levels of government in terms of statistics. Having said that, we are really focusing on administrative data, as the previous presenter said. It is one of the key areas of filling the data gaps that we have. And for that reason, we have put it as part of the 2023-27 strategic plan. And the overall statistical plan we call the Kenya Strategy for the Development of Statistics. We are currently at the second version. We are calling it the Kenya KSDS2. And part of the reason we are focusing on this is because we have realized there is a lot of demand for data for the SDGs, for Agenda 2063, Vision 2030. And for the Kenyan context, as we said, we have the devolved units that require the subnational development plan indicators. And we have done an assessment in terms of the administrative data for the SDGs, and we notice we are doing about 67% of the indicators as at 2025 that we are reporting from administrative data sources, which is quite high. But the good side and the most interesting thing is that we found that we can actually fill 82.5% of the unreported indicators using administrative data. That is only for the SDGs. We are not even talking about the national level, about the county or the devolved units. So there's a lot of potential in terms of administrative data, and that's why we are really focusing on it. And of course, funding has become an issue, and we really want to focus on the most efficient way to produce data that is actually sustainable, high frequency, and can be used for planning. The high frequency is really important because if you look at most of the indicators that we have an issue in terms of the timeliness of reporting. The numbers that we report are actually outdated and we need to actually update them. And as we focus on admin data, we're actually looking at integrating it with other sources of data. So the first thing that we have done in Kenya as a general overview is on quality assurance and the code of practice. I think quality assurance is very important for us, and we have come up with the Kenya Statistical Quality Assurance Framework. And this framework is actually adopted from the United Nations National Quality Assurance Framework Manual, and we customized it to the Kenyan context. So it also has the 4 levels, like the generic one. It has the institutional, the system, the process, and the output, ABCD, the 4 levels. And we also have the quality dimensions that we're actually focusing on in terms of quality. So this one was really important because we've never had a quality assurance framework in Kenya. And it actually is there to complement the data quality assessment frameworks that we have in Kenya, like the government finance statistics. And the two are very key in terms of improving the quality. But you also noticed that members from our national statistical systems were struggling with the case curve because it is very detailed and there are a lot of requirements. So we decided to come up with what we call the Kenya Statistics Code of Practice. So these documents actually speak to each other in terms of content, but we made sure that the Kenya Statistics Code of Practice is actually easier for our members to understand, easier for them to interpret. You don't need somebody to take you through the code. And we actually consolidated all the requirements into the 3 pillars of quality, trust, and progressiveness, which makes it very easy for our national statistical members to actually read and adopt. So this one is what we are using to assess the quality of our statistics, and it's actually a requirement for designating statistics from the National Statistical System as official. And then we have also done the domestication of the generic statistical business process model so that we guide our members in terms of the processes of production of statistics, especially on surveys and administrative data. So this one is what we're using to guide the life cycle of administrative data and of course for the survey data. So in terms of the status of administrative data, after having the quality assurance framework, so what are we actually doing to promote this quality of administrative data? So the first key thing that we have done is to promote the setting up of statistical offices in all the line ministries, departments, agencies. And as I said, because statistics in Kenya is a shared function, we are also promoting it in the counties, the devolved units, so that each unit has a dedicated staff, resources for statistics. In this case, you're not talking about a very flashy office, a very big building somewhere. We just want to have a dedicated staff, resources that are working on statistics. They might be in the same office, like in the Ministry of Agriculture. They don't need to have a separate office, only to have a dedicated staff and resources for statistics. And this one is actually going on very well, especially for the counties. And then in terms of data sharing, this has been a very important area for us. And we normally do data sharing through memorandum of understandings, through the ministries, departments, agencies, and the counties. So key among the MOUs that we have is with the Kenya Revenue Authority, because they produce a lot of data that nobody use for publications. So the MOUs are not only for data sharing, it's also in terms of planning the activities for the year. So we co-fund activities, we co-chair, we go to meetings in different venues, so we can host the meeting this year and then they can host the meeting next year. So it's actually about implementing all the activities in a planned manner. And then another critical one is the technical working committees. So because of the requirements in standards, requirements in methodology, we like having the technical working committees, and the committees are for data validation and ensuring that we follow the methodologies that are required in the thematic areas. So currently we have around 18 technical working committees established across different domains, and they meet at least on quarterly basis. So when they do the meetings, we do the validation of data, we do capacity building in terms of changes in methodology. We actually ensure that the data that we are getting from administrative sources is at par with the standards. And we have also agreed on standardized templates for sharing across the different technical working committees. So the same thing for the technical working committees. We co-fund the activities for the committees in terms of the meetings, in terms of the venues, in terms of other activities. So it's not only for data, but you also co-share the activities and the requirements for hosting those meetings. And then for the devolved units, we said they have their own plans and they need administrative data to also inform the plans and also to do the assessment of how far they have gone with the plans. So what we have done for the counties is that we have developed a standard template for producing this publication that we call the County Statistics Abstract. And that structure is based across the statistical domains and is actually classified according to the statistical domains. This is really important because we want to have comparability of data between the counties and actually make sure we produce the publications in more or less the same way, following the same methodologies. So as KNBS, we support the devolved units to come up with these documents, but they're actually owned by the counties. We just give the technical support. And the plan is to have all the 47 counties produce their abstracts, and that is actually work that is ongoing. And I think we have around 10 that have produced this year, and we're hoping to have the 47. In terms of capacity building, we do capacity buildings in the technical working committees. We also have an annual training on basic statistics. This one is actually supported by Statistics Sweden, one of our partners that we are working with, who train on the basic statistics, especially for our national statistical system members and the people working at the counties. And we also had a training that was facilitated by UN Women on statistical quality of administrative data. We are part of the countries that were piloted on this, and we have actually benefited a lot in terms of this training. So that is in terms of production, but in terms of use, the accessibility of data and interpretability of data, we're also working towards how our users can actually access this data from administrative sources, in what formats they access the data, where can they access it, is there metadata to support this? So as part of the support that we have had from the African Development Bank, we're actually working on the second dissemination platform for the macro data that we call Open Data Portal 2. So this one will be mainly for macro data and will be organized in the statistical domains. Remember, we said even for the counties, we are producing data based on the statistical domains. So as we do the dissemination, we want to make sure access is also in the statistical domains. And it is built on the Statistical Data and Metadata Exchange Standards, SDMX, which is really important for us because we are looking at how we are going to actually integrate data and have data sharing across ministries, departments, and agencies. So SDMX format is a very good format, and it allows us an integration of AI into the data. So with this, it is AI ready, it is machine readable, it is structured, and the best part is that we have accompanying metadata with the data sets. So as you download the data in the different formats, you're also getting the metadata to accompany the data sets. So this one is in the very advanced stages and it should be out very, very soon. And this one will be complementing the Kenya Open SDGs platform that actually is based on SDMX as well, and also integrates metadata into the portal, so you are able to get the data and the accompanying metadata. So another area that we are looking upon is the Unified Government Service Platform, which is a unified service platform that allows Kenyans to access over 20,000 government services. It's actually called eCitizen. And if you look at the Kenya's AI strategy, is about integration of the different data sources to prevent people sharing data the way we are sharing on emails, the way we are sharing using hard drives. We actually integrate systems. And this part of the government agenda to have integration of services. And this is a key area that we can tap on in terms of statistics. I remember in our strategic plan and in our strategy for the development of statistics, we want to have integration of data sharing within the ministries, departments, and agencies. Now, with this platform, with the 20,000 government services, it allows users to access real-time information from various ministries, departments, and agencies. So for us, we're able to tap this and actually get data, anonymized data that we can use for policy. But I know there are a few legal and policy frameworks that have to be put in place, but it's actually a focus area that we want to have a look at. So some other efforts that we have in Kenya is that we are part of the Collaborative on Administrative Data, and we are part of the countries that piloted this. So this one has really assisted us to improve the quality of our data. And the long-term partnerships that we have with Statistics Sweden that focuses on improving statistical quality and coordination across the national statistical system. This one has really supported us in terms of improving quality, in terms of engaging members of the national statistical system, and even coming up with a second strategy for the development of statistics. And we also have what we call a stakeholder and user engagement strategy for the national statistical system. This one was supported by the UN Women, and it has really assisted us to engage our stakeholders and our users, especially on administrative data. So having said that, we still have challenges. As my previous presenter said, of course, there are challenges with administrative data. Key among them is that it's not for statistical purposes. It's not primarily for statistical purposes. So we have different structured data from different entities, and sharing is sometimes very challenging, especially integration of systems. So we are looking at how we can actually engage the different ministries, departments, and agencies and see how we can integrate our systems to share the data. And as we establish the statistics unit, we are seeing there's limited capacity to produce data and statistics. So we're also engaging the users and engaging those that are producing statistics at the statistics unit to make sure that they have the capacity. Linkages, especially because of the different structures of the data, is a challenge. We also have challenges in terms of programming languages and linkages in areas such as language modules, R, Python, etc. And then the final one, and I think this is a big challenge, I think, to most countries, is data sharing between ministries, departments, counties, and agencies, and the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. So this is in terms of integration of system and in terms of periodicity of provision of this data. So it's an area that we have struggled a bit, and we are focusing on to see how we can improve on this. So having talked about the challenges, there are now priority areas that we need to focus so that we can actually address those challenges. The first and the most important is the revision of the Statistics Act, development of the statistics regulation. So this one is really key for us because to help us to improve the coordination of the national statistical system, improve standardization, but most importantly, it will help us have more real-time data sharing with our ministries, departments, and agencies. The second one is implementation of the second strategy for the development of statistics. This one is a national document. It is owned by the National Statistical System, and KNBS is taking lead on this. So we really want to focus on the weaknesses that we saw in the first strategy and actually take advantage of emerging issues in statistics, like we have launched the National AI Strategy for Kenya. And it's actually a key document in terms of statistics that we need to take note of. And the other area that we're working on and has been really key for us is the technical working committees. These are part of the core committees that we require at the NSS for coordination, for data sharing, and for the harmonization of methodologies across the TWCs. And then for the devolved units, we are working on the production of the 47 county statistics abstract to inform the policy at the devolved units. So this one, as I said, is ongoing, and I think we should be having around 10 or 15 reports developed this year. So that was my presentation. It's a high-level presentation on how we are enhancing the use and the quality of academic data in Kenya. So back to you. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jeffrey, for that, again, high-level presentation of the approach that you are taking in your office. I think the discussions around institutional mechanisms were very important. I very much appreciated the points around the outreach that you are doing with all the various admin data holders in Kenya to ensure that they understand the various processes and the uses of that data that KMBS is undertaking, and also this disaggregated data that is coming from all the various institutions that you have in the country. And I think for both presentations, I think it was clear how both in Fiji and in Kenya, we see leveraging also international partners and working with international organizations, as well as some of these more advanced countries, to also get support that way. So in both examples, that was clearly coming. Colleagues, again, we would like to encourage you to post your questions through the chat. We have about 10 minutes or so to pick up as many as we can. Maybe, Shaisa, I'll start with you. I know you already responded to this in the chat, but I think it's quite important to bring this to the discussion on the floor. One of our colleagues, Beverly, mentioned and asked about how do you in Fiji get the police to cooperate? And a broader question from Mostafa is how to create a win-win situation with stakeholders to encourage their collaboration. Maybe you want to highlight what you wrote already and provide some additional details around this win-win point that our colleague Mostafa made.
Thank you, Mr. Sokol, and thank you for the question. In terms of the Fiji's stance on this, at first we reached out to the heads of the organization of the crime data institutions, for instance, the Fiji Police Force. We reached out to the commissioner and then through formal communication, and then we prepared presentations and awareness to the commissioner, and then from there we followed the queue in terms of creating a technical working group and working in accordance to the ICCS implementation requirements.
Excellent. Yep. Thank you so very much for that. And I think just to, Shaista, if I may just quickly follow up on an additional question that our colleague Muta Jones mentioned about this API. I think this is a bit technical, so we'll try. But you know, some of these details, sometimes, you know, these IT people are better placed to answer. In any case, the question is about, will the statistical office have the authority to do statistical logics checks directly into the data prior to it being moved, prior to it reaching your servers, or will the cleaning be done within your office once you receive the data from the administrative data holder? Do you happen to know if you have had those discussions already?
Okay, thank you again. In terms of getting the data to the statistics office, at first we are planning to train the officers within the organizations, for instance, police, the corrections, and other justice system on the international classification of crime for statistical purposes. So when they send the data to the Fiji Bureau of Statistics, it's already in that classification system. And in terms of getting, I'm not an IT person, but in terms of getting access to the data, what we are planning is to have a consistent system for Fiji to have all the data in that system. So, for instance, police feeds the data, it is readable by prosecution, and then corrections and judicial as well. So FBOS is able to get access to the data and does the required cleaning from our end to convert it to the official statistics.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much for highlighting those and answering those questions. Jeffrey, a couple of questions for you from our colleagues in Cameroon. The first one is, how do you address the privacy issue often raised by the data owners? And do you, in the case of Kenya, have had to pay for having access to administrative data?
Thank you for that question. Yes, I think we have the same issues on privacy, but I think in terms of administrative data, we have not had so much issue. Administrative data, but for private data holders like the telecoms, we're actually having a challenge, and that's why I said in my presentation, we are reviewing the act to see how we can create avenues for sharing data, and then we see how to address those privacy concerns. But in terms of administrative data, because it's aggregated data, it is there are no identifiers in admin data, mostly it's aggregated data. We have not had a challenge, and the technical working committees and the MOUs are actually working very well. Thank you.
Thank you. And just a couple of quick follow-ups for you, Jeffrey. One is from our colleague Evelyn, who's asking, is it possible to share a sample of these county statistical abstracts? Are those publicly available? And if that can be shared with us, we'll be happy to share it with everybody if it's publicly available and not an issue. And related to the data that is coming from the county level, our colleagues from Cameroon are asking, one of the problems that they have in their country is that sometimes the data available at the local disaggregated level is often different from the data available at the central level once aggregated. What approach do you use in Kenya? Is it the bottom-up approach or the reverse? And is the county statistical abstracts produced by the counties themselves or by the KMBS local bureau if you happen to have that? So let me just ask those again, because there are a few questions there for you, Jeffrey. One is, what do the county statistical abstracts consist of, and is it possible? Are they publicly available, and could we share that with participants in the course? And then the second question, the second stream of questions here is about the process. Is it a bottom-up sort of aggregation or the reverse? And are the abstracts produced by the counties themselves or by any local KMBS office that you may have?
All right, thank you for the questions. Yes, the country statistics abstracts are publicly available on our website. I think I'll post the link to where you can actually access them. In terms of production, we collaborate with the devolved units. We have a county office for each of the 47 counties, and then there's the KNBS headquarter offices. We do the bottom-up approach. We do the data collection at the county. We do the validation at the county, and then we actually make sure we validate the data before we produce. We support the counties to produce the abstract, and our logo is there, but really they are owned by the counties, and the idea is to build capacity so that they're able to produce the abstracts by themselves, but also make sure they adhere to the statistical standards and make sure the way the data is presented is actually accurate. I think those are the questions, unless I missed one.
No, thank you very much. That was very, very all-encompassing and excellent to hear that that is publicly available. Please do share it with us, and we'll make sure that have this with colleagues more broadly. Maybe we do one more round of questions here. We have about 5 minutes left, but the next question here, maybe I go to you, Shaista. I know you have touched on this already, but colleagues are wondering, how do we standardize the admin data definitions from the different sources? I know you mentioned training and capacity building of the policemen and all these various producers of the administrative data, the ones who are inputting the information into various systems. Do you have any additional suggestions for colleagues for the standardization, as well as any data gaps that you face, and how do we get completeness and accuracy to meet the quality standards that we have in statistical offices?
Thank you, Mr. Sokol, for that question. Yes, in terms of Fiji, we align the administrative data definitions to the international standards. For instance, the work we are carrying on ICCS is we map all the definitions in the Crimes Act to the international standards, which is the categories in the So we follow the international standard guidelines that are available, in addition to the technical capacity building of the offices.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you again for taking that question up and providing some more details on it. Last question your way, Jeffrey, here from our colleagues, Hualei Chai. What are some of the concerns, maybe to rephrase the question here, what are some of the concerns that you have heard from administrative data holders with sharing information? What are some of the risks that they see, and how have you responded to those concerns that the administrative data holders maybe have brought to your attention?
Thank you for that question. Yes, we have a few concerns from our admin data holders, especially from Central Bank and KRA, because they are holding a lot of data, especially in terms of exchange of data between us and them. In Kenya, there's a requirement for us to comply with the Data Protection Act, and it's implementing data sharing agreement has been a challenge. So mostly what we have done to address this is to have specific templates and variables on what we need at KNBS, so that we actually share aggregated data on specific areas. But in terms of further analysis, where we want to have the anonymized microdata for everyone, then we can do further analysis with it, is where we have had the biggest challenge. So for both administrative data and data held by private entities, private companies. So we are working towards having memorandum of understanding to address those issues. It is a bit of a process, and I know it will take a bit of time, but actually privacy concerns on data are there, and we actually try to see how to address them so that we can better share data with both national statistical system members and the private data holders. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you again very much, Jeffrey, for that. And I realize now we're coming up close to the top of the hour. I apologize if we did not get to all the questions that that everybody had posted. Please do share those through the discussion forum as well, and we'll try to pick those up through there. But I think we did a fairly good job. Many thanks to both Jeffrey and Shaista for responding to the many interesting questions that were put together, and also thank you, Jeffrey, for sharing the list to the abstract. Before we wrap things up here, Shaista, maybe let me give you the floor for any final remarks that you may have. Many colleagues just starting to work with administrative data. Is there any sort of main takeaways, main lessons that you would like to share with them as they embark in utilizing administrative data for official statistics? Shaista, over to you for final remarks, please.
Thank you, Mr. Sokol. In terms of administrative data, what we do at the Fiji Bureau of Statistics is always follow the international standards, as I've mentioned earlier in the presentation as well as discussions. So we always follow the international standards. First, we contextualize to national level, and then we follow the international standards and implement it in our national statistical systems as well. So it is a bit challenge in terms of getting data from all the stakeholders and then aligning to the standards and guidelines. But in terms of if we are collaborating with our stakeholders, then it becomes easier for us to work with the admin data. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so very much. I think critical to collaborate and have these outreach activities. Jeffrey, over to you for some final thoughts on this and any encouraging words you may have for those of us who are just starting to work with administrative data.
Thank you. So I think each country's context is different, but I think we can learn from each other. And I think the country context implementation is very important. So it's good to learn from other countries, but I think it is up to each country to define what works for them, of course, based on international standards and guidelines. But I think each country should be focusing on its own environment and what would actually really work for them. Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, very good advice. You know, what works in one place may not necessarily work well in your national circumstances. So take the best practices, adopt them to your national circumstances. Very good. Colleagues, excellent. Thank you for joining us today for the second webinar of the course. Many thanks again to our colleagues, Ms. Shaista B. from Fiji, as well as Mr. Jeffrey Kariuki from Kenya for their presentation, their time, and answering all the various questions that you have. This week, please make sure to again wrap up reading modules 3 and 4. On Monday, the last two modules 5 and 6 will be available for you, so you can read those as well, and we will touch on those topics next week. We will have our third and final webinar at the same time on Wednesday, the 22nd of April. You'll get the usual reminders. Again, please do post any questions or comments that you may have in the discussion forums, and we'll pick those up as we go along. So thank you again, everybody, for joining us. Take care, and we'll see each other online and in person online in 1 week's time for the third and final webinar. Thank you again to colleagues Shaista and Jeffrey. Take care, everybody, and bye-bye for now.